Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning into this overdue knife review of the Benchmade 535 Bugout. This is a knife that Benchmade sent to me many months ago for testing and review, and you've probably seen lots of other reviews on it up till now. However, I wanted to get lots of pocket time with this, use it in lots of different situations, and really kind of determine whether this was going to be worth the 115 or so bucks that you would spend on it. With that kind of a price tag, you want to know how it's going to perform. You want to know how it's going to hold up. Does it really live up to its name? So on and so forth. And again, I think I've put it through its paces and can tell you that pretty definitively today. So let's get into the review, kind of get into some comparisons as well, show you what this knife looks like stacked up to a bunch of other knives, sort of in its size and weight category, some in its price category, and help you really determine whether this is going to be the lightweight, perhaps backpacking, perhaps camping, perhaps motorcycling knife for you. So, Benchmade 535 Bugout, let's get into the review. So how about we start off with some specs, get the scale out here and show you what this thing weighs. This is really the sort of the high point on this knife, in my opinion. The thing that really makes it a winner. 1.8 ounces. That is extremely lightweight. It's just, it's going to be very unobtrusive in pocket. You're going to be able to carry this in virtually any situation and have a pretty good amount of knife on you. Looking at the thinness of it, I think this is about 0.4 inches thick or thin, depending on how you want to describe it. But I'm talking about this dimension here. It's a very thin knife. Putting that in pocket, you barely feel it. You barely notice it's there. Again, not just the weight, but the dimensional quality of it as well. How much space does it take up in pocket? Almost none. And that's why I love it. That's why I'm absolutely a fan of this knife. So, really nice and thin. Deep carry pocket clip, but also a small pocket clip. You can see that that doesn't extend way out to here or anything. It's just a little tiny one, so it doesn't, shout out that it's there when you're walking around with it. It's just enough to keep that thing securely pocketed and keep it from getting lost without, getting caught on stuff and causing any kind of other issues. Looking at the construction otherwise, we see that there's a great big lanyard loop right here, real nice. We can also see that that pocket clip can reverse and be put on this side. Very useful feature also. You can see that it is a full flow-through design. So you're going to be able to blow out all that dust, shake it out. This thing gets wet, gets dunked in some water or whatever. It's going to dry out pretty quickly. There's not going to be a lot of little pockets in there for that water to accumulate and cause problems. So yeah, extremely light, extremely thin. I love the construction of it. A little bit of jimping right there, as you can see, kind of just on the inner liner, and there's barely any liner. Speaking of, let's see if we can show you the inside of that. Kind of a waffle pattern to that inner scale, the handle scale there, but not much of a frame. Okay, when we get up to the top here, that is really where the axis lock comes into play. And I think it extends down to this screw, this little frame. There's very little to it. And that's basically it. That's all the metal you get, just enough for you to have a lock on this knife. So it's not going to be the ultimate as far as strength is concerned. It's not designed to be that. It's really an extremely lightweight knife and really easy to carry and use kind of a knife. But is it easy to use considering how thin it is and considering that all of this is just basically that the plastic that Benchmade uses, and there's really no frame, no steel frame backing any of this up. So is it strong enough to use? Is it going to be flexing and twisting in your hand as you're cutting and doing small pry type jobs with it? In my opinion, it does flex a little bit, and I'll see if we can demonstrate that ever so slightly. I'm just going to hold on to this real tight and press here. I think you can see that, all right? You can see how it's twisting there, and go the other direction. You can see that it does get a little bit of a twist when you try to, all right? It's not bad, though. A little bit of a flex, but I think that's to be expected for something of this size. Even so, it's put together well. We've got a nice little, looks like an anodized pillar there and there, giving it a good structure, and it holds it together really well. As far as cutting, as far as actual use is concerned, how is this thing performing? Well, let me show you something I cut and sort of created with this knife we have a fork here, all right? Found a little dead branch near a stream, cut that off and carved this into a fork, all right? So real easy to do, and it held up just fine. So did all this work, you can see here on the bottom, kind of cutting away at that to turn that into sort of an ergonomic base for using in whatever manner you might use. And then of course, cutting away at this portion here to create the fork, slimming the whole thing down, removing all this wood in order to create that shape there. So yeah, performed great. And at no point did I feel any kind of fatigue while using the knife. Now, this is a fairly light duty project, okay? I'm not, processing wood for a fire or anything, but it's still a realistic project, okay? Let's say you're going camping, whether on a motorcycle, backpacking, or any other situation. Let's say you lost your tent pegs. You want to create some tent pegs for your tent. Yeah, this will do it just fine. It'll sharpen those pegs, it'll create a little notch, and you'll be able to use your knife to make up for what you lost. Same goes with utensils. Food. Let's say you brought a Mountain House meal and you've got your spork and all that stuff and you're planning on eating your meal and it's all going to be fine, but at some point you had an opportunity to catch a fish and now you want to use a fork with eating your fish or whatever. Yeah, while your fish is in the fire, go ahead and carve up a little fork and you're good to go. So again, heavy duty stuff, no, wouldn't really put this knife in that kind of category. Wouldn't think of it as a survival type of a knife, not at all. But as a capable utility knife that you can have in virtually any situation, the Benchmade Bugout definitely fulfills that role. I did not cover the length of the blade, which is approximately 3 inches for the cutting edge there. I believe that there's about another 1/4 inch of non-cutting edge. And you can see that the deployment is by way of this blue thumb stud, really cool looking. So you can roll that out slowly if you want to, or you can just kind of flick it out as I did there in the introduction. And it's very slick, very fast. It does use Benchmade's Axis lock system, as you can see there. All you got to do to release the blade is you can pull back on that and it will just sort of fall out. Okay, and then of course to let it fall back into the handle, you just start to unlock it, pull them down, either from one side or the other, or both at the same time, and then it just drops. Okay, and that's all there is to it. So what else can we say about it? I think we're mostly there. There's probably some other things. Oh, S30v Steel, which is kind of a critical thing to talk about. S30v is a great steel, really nice stainless steel that performs really well for a long time. Cuts and cuts and cuts. Pretty strong steel, very durable steel. Not perfect though, and I found that to be true as I kind of examined this blade edge after some of the cutting that I did with it. Not sure if you'll be able to see here, but there are 1 or 2 very tiny little nicks in this blade right around, fingernail will find it, right around there. There, I think. Yeah. Back of the fingernail always finds the nicks very easily. There are a couple of small nicks. I would say that is due to the thinness, overall thinness of the stock of that blade. And do I have that information handy? I'm not sure I do, but it is extremely thin. Okay, very, very thin blade. Has to be in order to be as carryable and as light as it is, but one of the things that can be a drawback when you get into something super light and super light duty is, potential for nicks in the blade. And it does come with a very fine edge, perfectly fine edge. I love how fine that edge is, but it's not well supported, not extremely well supported. So is there a possibility of getting a nick by doing some hard cutting, by cutting some hard materials? Yep, it is possible. And so you'll want to be somewhat gentle with this knife as you use it in the outdoors or in any situation. But that said, let's get into a couple of comparisons. So there is the Benchmade 535 Bugout. And you know what? Before we lay out a couple of other knives, let's tell you about a couple of other knives that it compares pretty favorably against. Number one, I would say, is the Benchmade 530. Now, I don't own a 530. I'll show you some footage of it on a website. But that is a knife that Benchmade came out with a long time ago. It was very popular for quite a while. I was never a huge fan of it. I thought there was some ergonomic issues with the thumb stud. You know, as far as aesthetics, it looks really cool. It's kind of got this dagger kind of a look to it. And I could kind of take it out or leave it, honestly, as far as functionality is concerned. I actually feel like the Bugout has got a better shape to it for ergonomics, in my opinion, but that's just me. However, the 530 is very, very akin to the Bugout as far as weight is concerned. It was also an extremely lightweight knife at around 1.8, 1.9 ounces. So sub 2, very easy to backpack and carry around. And I think it was really similar as far as the blade shape was concerned. Not blade shape, but blade thinness. Another one would be the Benchmade Mini Griptilian, and I don't have one on the table, unfortunately. But that's going to compare very favorably against the Bugout as far as, you know, kind of weight and usability. That one coming in at just about 2.5 ounces. One of my favorite, just general use knives. Love that thing. And yeah, also a great one from Benchmade with the Axis lock as well. And it comes in many, many varieties and colors. That said, let's get on to some non-Benchmade comparisons, and maybe one Benchmade comparison here. Let's throw this guy out. The weight I don't have handy, so we're going to bring the scale out. And this is the Benchmade Osborne 940-2. And that is 2.6 ounces, super carryable for outdoors and just general use as well. And that's kind of how that stacks up in comparison. As far as price, this one's going to be over $150, I believe. This one just around $115. So there's that to keep in mind as well. This guy, now this is one that really, really competes against the Bugout. Spyderco Delica. Okay, this one is 2.2 ounces, and this particular one in S30v Steel, just like you. A lot less money. Well, a bit less money. I want to say this is about 80 bucks, 70 or 80 bucks for this guy. So pretty good price on that. And this one with the Zome coloring on the handle scale. Really good looking, in my opinion. What else could we see? How about this guy? This is the Boker Patriot in 154 cm steel. I think that this is going to be kind of on par with the Delica as far as price, and the weight on it, 2.3 ounces. Once again, nice, lightweight, easily daily carryable kind of a blade, and really competes pretty favorably against the Bugout, even in color and looks. What else have we got here? This guy right here. How about Spyderco Lightweight Manix 2? It's one in CTS BD1. This is, I think, the original version of the lightweight Manix 2. Weighing in at 2.8 ounces. Still very, very competitive against the Bugout there. How about an option from Kershaw? This one, the Kershaw Dividend. Also pretty small, pretty lightweight. Aluminum handle scales on it. This one comes in at 2.9, 2.8-ish. Also very, comparable against the Bugout there. Last, we've got a very budget option. And this one's pretty inexpensive right here, but here's a nice budget option. There is the Bird Meadowlark 2. I think this is like a sub $20 knife, just under 20 bucks. Real easy to get into with, I think, 8CR13 MOV steel, like it says on the blade there, made in China. 2.2 ounces, okay? Very, very competitive as far as size and weight are concerned. So lots of good stuff out there if you want to stay around 2 ounces, maybe just over 2 ounces, or even under 2 ounces. There's plenty out there. There's plenty. Is this going to be the best? Well, none of those knives match this as far as thinness in pocket, as far as I can tell, or how easily and how deep this carries in pocket. This has easily been my favorite knife to ride around with on my KLR 650. This thing just buries in pocket. I never notice it's there, but when I need it, there it is. So I would say as a travel knife, as something to ride with, to backpack with, as your utility knife, again, I would not consider this, I would not classify this as a survival knife by any means, but as an extremely lightweight and fairly light duty utility knife, This thing shines. It is extremely good, and at 115 bucks, it is well worth your consideration. Again, thanks to Benchmade for sending this one out for testing and review. Guys, I hope this review was helpful to you. Stick around for more. I'm the Late Boy Scout. We'll talk to you later.